Lee, it is a pleasure to have you back. I know people are going to be excited to hear from you because it seems like there may be an historic thaw evolving here between the United States and Russia. How are you, Lee?
I'm doing great, Jason. How are you?
I'm well. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So tell us what's going on. What can we expect? We've depicted through the magic of AI today. We've got a possible future here of Donald Trump hosting Vladimir Putin on a golf outing here while bitchy loser Vladimir Zelensky is the golf caddy.
Well, let me complain about something that
Sure.
someone else messed up. You know that guy Mario who does spaces on X?
Uh-huh. Norfall or something like that.
Right, that guy. So they asked me last week to do a space and be a guest. So I'm a pro, so I was prepared for it. I was thinking about what I want to say, and they didn't end up calling on me. I mean, I looked like I was being called on a couple of times, but they didn't end up calling me. So what I was going to do then was plant my flag, which is a term I use when I make predictions. Because like in the John Edwards case, remember that? The John Edwards
Yes.
baby?
Yep.
Okay, when I was writing for HuffPost, I made sure, because I knew where it was going to go. I'll tell you how, I'll tell you my secret to predictions. I like to always be right on predictions. Like I really do. I don't like to make a prediction unless I'm 200% sure. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I'm not a betting man. I'm an accurate journalist. So
Right.
I really don't like to be wrong. So look, let me talk about what's obvious here. Because the whole space, I had to sit there like 3 hours of people conjecturing about stuff and talking about, I'm not into that. And they didn't call me. But what I was going to say was, look, I would have said this. See, the reason I'm pissed about that is because if they'd done it, I would be able to say, see, I said this a week ago. Because
Right.
I predicted everything that's happening now. It's based on, I mean, not the details exactly, not like they meet in Saudi Arabia and Zelensky
But
would,
the logical flow of the general what's
right.
happening.
And here's why I predicted it. Because Zelensky is acting exactly like I expected him to. And anyone who's watched Zelensky knows, I'll put it like this. He's a flinty guy. He's he's a he's not a good loser, right? Have you
Correct.
noticed that?
Well, not
And
only have I noticed that, Lee, I've noticed it's a trait that I saw. I don't mean to, be too personal about this, but I was married to a Ukrainian woman almost 20 years ago, and there's this vindictiveness that came out during the divorce that I see in a lot of what's happening now with Zelensky.
yeah, and so there's three people involved. Now Putin, on the other hand, Putin, you know, I've said I was a Putin fan for a while, right? I'm on the record being a Putin fan,
And
and
I
one
agree
reason
with
I
you.
am,
He's sensible.
and also he was. I don't want to. I'm hesitant to use this term. If I say he was playing Trump like a fiddle, here's what I mean. I don't mean he's manipulating him, but I know some things about Donald Trump too. I know if you attack him with a knife, they'll come back with a bazooka, right? I mean, that's his
It's
way.
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
no. And a lot of people learn this. The reason Pompeo got in there is he such up to Trump, right? If you say good things about Trump,
Right.
it goes a
There's
long
a way
way.
to appeal to his ego.
So you see what I'm saying? I'm not saying manipulating. I'm not saying Putin's being nefarious or anything, but he knew exactly how to play Trump. That's why he was out there saying, yeah, the election was stolen. And yeah, this war wouldn't have happened if Trump had won. He was complimenting him, right? For weeks.
Well, but it's also true, isn't it?
Yes, that's what I say. But I'm just saying, as opposed to Zelensky, who's played Trump like
Right.
a
The opposite way.
like like a dead dog. I mean,
Just
just
piss him off right away. Say he's
right.
Russian propaganda.
He's doing exactly the things that are not going to go well. And also he's rallying the same people who hated Trump and attacked him mercilessly as a Putin puppet for 4 years. And Trump survived that. And the other thing was Trump won by a landslide. right? So, I mean, Zelensky attacking Trump like he's done, and it got so bad that the guy who's representing uh, Steve Kellogg, Lieutenant Colonel, General Steve Kellogg, was representing the U.S. in Ukraine.
Oh, right.
Okay?
He canceled, right? News conference?
Right. Right. In front of everyone. Photographers were there. But Zelensky was told yesterday by Kellogg, back off, stop insulting the U.S. And this is good advice. He said, stop insulting the U.S., sign the deal. And the mood Trump's in, because the Trump administration, I will say, is going a lot better than I thought it would, actually. It's going, I think, phenomenally.
Yeah.
Phenomenally well. And so Trump knows it, and he's got kind of a high in the way success can. Does that
Political
make sense?
collateral. Yeah.
As opposed to Hunter Biden, who is high. But I'm just saying,
Where
Trump's in
everybody be.
but Trump's in a good mood, and he's got swagger right now. And the other thing Putin did was he didn't just praise Trump. He praised the United States. Because here's one thing people don't know about Putin. A lot of people don't know. Putin's got a very pro-Western bias, actually. He was stationed in Germany a long time. Now, when I say pro-Germany, I mean pro-Western. I mean pro-European, pro-American. That's why he asked years ago to join NATO. So Putin does not hate our country.
Right.
And they released a guy from prison, a school teacher, been over there a few years, and is apparently not a black lesbian there.
It's just a guy who had some weed in his suitcase.
Right. And again, my advice is, not now, but I would have said a year ago under Biden, if you bring weed to Russia, be a black lesbian. You see what I'm saying?
Well, don't bring the weed, I think is the idea.
Well, unless you're a black lesbian who wants to be in prison. Because you've seen the Pam Grier movies from the 1970s, right?
I mean, clips.
I'm just saying. It could be a vacation. I don't know. but my point here is that Putin did not say anything negative about the U.S. Because the other thing, obviously, Trump likes people saying nice stuff about him. But if they say nice stuff about him and talk about how America sucks, he's not going to go for that. And Putin was praising Trump and this country. And Trump, even last week, was praising Russia. When the guy came back, who was in prison, Trump, he said something that's absolutely true, that the Russians helped us win World War II. You never would have heard that under
You're
Biden.
right. You're right.
And that's factually true. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't want to, he said something obvious, but no, Biden never would have said that. He would have talked about him being a dictator and so on. And I've been saying for a while, I knew that when Trump talked to Putin, and by the way, I want you to notice the timing of something. Notice when the phone call happened between Trump and Putin?
Kind of right away, no?
No. It happened the morning that Tulsi Gabbard was passed. Tulsi Gabbard was, nominated, and it was confirmed.
Right.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
She had her confirmation. So I'm not sure it was to the moon, but I'll put it like this. Trump knew that Tulsi was going to win. I mean, he knew she passed because the way she won that, Trump and his team whipped the votes. They knew they had the votes going in, you see? So I think Trump waited to talk to Putin because he knew if he talked to Putin, then all the stuff we're seeing now would come down on Tulsi, you see?
Well, or also people would leak if he didn't have his people in there, right?
That's right. And it was important, I think, that I'm so happy Tulsi's in there. Look, a lot of people I was thinking about being good presidents, Tulsi, RFK Jr. are in now. And it's and he's done a phenomenal job of getting his people through the nomination process. And the
Yeah.
Democrats were trying for a win, and they haven't gotten one. They lost on Hegseth, they lost on Tulsi, they lost on RFK, they lost on Cash. So this is why I say Trump's got swagger now. But I think the reason he put Kellogg in there is like a stopgap until Tulsi gets through. He could say he's doing something about peace, but ultimately, you know who's running the peace process?
Who?
Donald Trump.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's because you've seen Rubio's statements. I don't think Rubio on his own would be as good as he's been.
No, I
really don't.
agree. Trump is very good, and I think now we're seeing the most refined version of Trump that we've ever seen in a lot of different ways. As a businessman, as a politician, as a human, I think the assassination attempts obviously changed his outlook on life and the presidency and all that. And he seems to me to be extremely effective at, first of all, having crafted a much better plan for what he wants to do this time than he had in 2016, and also for being able to execute it. It seems like he's, like you just said, he's contacting Putin once Tulsi is in there, because he's learned, you stick your finger in the socket and get electrocuted once, you don't stick it back in there again.
And the problem in his first term, he thought he knew. Here's what I'm saying. Trump's been famous a long time, right? I mean, he's been in the news for a long time.
Forever.
He's been mocked for a long time. He's been made fun of, by magazines, also praised, but whatever. But until you're like everyone's got an experience where they think they get in on the presidency. But at the presidency, politics are so vicious. They're so vicious. I think Trump wasn't quite prepared for that. All the backstabbing. And you got that graphic I sent you, right, Jason? And I think one key thing is...
Which one?
Steve Bannon.
Graphic that you sent me of Steve Bannon? I don't think I got that. Is it the one from you have a new book?
My book, yeah. I have a new book. It's almost done. Why MAGA Can't Trust Bannon. And a lot of people have attacked me for writing this book. People are like, why are you attacking Bannon? And they haven't read the book. Everyone who's read the book, and I'm only showing it to Trump supporters. See, I think one of the reasons Trump is doing well is because Bannon's not in the White House. And I think after you read this book, you will agree 100%. I think the book's going to be out in a couple of weeks. What slowed me down, because I thought it was going to be done by now, was Steve Bannon pleaded guilty to
the wall thing scandal. Or something. Yeah.
Yes.
What's happening with that now?
Well, I'll talk about that. But when, I was almost done with the book, right?
Uh-huh.
And suddenly Bannon pleads guilty. I didn't plan the book around knowing that was coming. I didn't actually know when the trial was.
Yeah.
And he didn't plead guilty. He pled guilty before the trial.
Well, yeah, it's a plea deal, right, to avoid the trial.
Right. And so I didn't know that was coming. So when that came, you know how I am about journalism.
You had to address it, obviously. It's such a big deal.
Well, not only did I have to address it, but I'm me. So I had to research it thoroughly, which means downloading files, reading them, assess. Because
the case, yeah.
I'll tell the story in the book, but I've known about the story for years because a friend of mine was working on a We Build a Wall thing, okay? And a good friend of mine. And he used to work for Breitbart, and he didn't like Bannon because Bannon's a vicious boss. He's a real prick. He yells at, he humiliates people, he yells at them and stuff like that. So he didn't like Bannon. And he asked Bannon early on to be involved, and Bannon said no. But then We Build a Wall raised $20 million by Christmas. So suddenly Bannon's like, calling him up, and he called my friend, and he said to me, my friend called me, he said, I just got a call from Bannon. Should I talk to him? And he knew I had some problems with Bannon too, because of burying the Ukraine story. But at the time, my divorce had just started. And so I was in a mood, I wanted to be a peacemaker. Does that make sense? I was in
I
the
know
early stages of that.
exactly what you mean. Yeah, it can do that where you're like, oh, gee, I don't need more fights.
And so I told my friend, I said, yeah, you know what? I think it's best you put this behind you and talk to him. What could go wrong? Well, what could go wrong was Steve could set up a corporation to funnel money, steal $1 million, and steal a lot more from donors. And then, but by the way, now a lot of people see, here's the thing. Bannon gets away with a lot of his stuff. I want people to be aware of this. They hear he's being prosecuted by Letitia James and Alvin Bragg, right? They brought the charges. So what do MAGA people?
Right away, they say, well, it's got to be a sham, and he didn't do it without even knowing the facts.
Right. Well, it's kind of like people. If you've been to some trials, if you just hear the first side, it always sounds good, right? I mean, when you hear the let's say the prosecution goes first.
Yeah.
When you hear the prosecution case, you're like, well, I guess this guy's guilty.
In the bag. Right.
Right. So you have to hear both sides. And
I equate it to a boxing match, Lee. When I'm in a trial like that, it's like, oh, man. And then the defense comes up and you're like, whoa. And it's like one blow, the next blow. But you're right. They're very persuasive.
And so most MAGA people have heard only Steve's side. They've heard what Steve said, and he came out of the court after pleading guilty and attacked Letitia James. And don't get me wrong, she deserved being attacked. But in this case, what to look for is people were found guilty outside of New York. I mean, not with D.C.
Well, but what did he plead guilty to doing?
He pled guilty to, well, essentially it's the fraud, but leave what he pled guilty to. There were 3 other defendants initially, and Trump pardoned Bannon. So when the trial happened, there were only 3 people. The 3 people were Brian Colpage, the veteran, who's a trooper MPG.
Oh, yeah.
A guy named Brian Shea, and a guy named Andy Badalado. Now, I know Andy. Andy is Steve Bannon's best friend, okay? He's known him 30 years. And I know Andy pretty well. When I need money for a computer back in 2017 for my office, in my CJS office, I needed to buy an iMac because I only had one computer. I needed one for Shane. So I called Andy. He's the kind of guy who I called him. I said, I need a computer. Boom. He gave me $700 or whatever, immediately. So he's known Bannon, done business with him, and he's his best friend. Now, he was found guilty and sentenced to prison for 3 years. And not only that, he was forced to pay back millions of dollars. So here's what I'm saying. Forget Bannon. People, before you say, well, it's purely political, what's Andy Badalado? Why is Brian Colpage? They were either pled guilty or found guilty in a trial. And I've read those documents. And think about this. Bannon didn't get them pardons. So his best friend, again, imagine you and I ripped off people for millions. And then Trump's going to pardon you, say, hey, how about Lee?
Right.
And he's letting his best friend rot in prison. That's the kind of guy Bannon is. Wow. And he didn't have to pay back any money because Andy did and Brian did. They had to pay back millions. So again, this case, I laid it out methodically.
Well, Lee, let me ask you something about Bannon. There's this guy who's part of Trump's legal team named Boris Epshteyn, who has got some background in Russia. And, I speak to Sal Greco a lot. And this guy apparently was brought in by Bannon. Do you know anything about Boris Epshteyn?
No, I don't.
Well,
he
was born in Moscow in 1981, right at the, on the cusp of perestroika. And he's the son, his family are Russian Jews. So in 1993, they emigrated. That's perestroika right there to New Jersey. He's a lawyer. I don't know. See, you say that Bannon can't be trusted. He brought in this guy, and this guy's connected to all the Eric Adams stuff. I'm very concerned about it.
Well, so the other thing about Bannon was he didn't just rob millions from MAGA. That's why it pisses me off. So it's MAGA people. It's not like he ripped off Democrats. He ripped off people like you and me and
his own
watching.
People. No, I hear you. His own
and
audience.
That's really gross. It's gross either way, but you know what I'm saying? And he does it by fooling them. Because Bannon is a, well, let me ask you, you're a film guy, Jason. Did you ever see The Thin Blue Line?
I think documentary? So. Maybe. That's about the police?
Yeah, it was a beautiful documentary. The sex were great on it. And Bannon was interviewed by Earl Morris, the filmmaker. He's one of the best documentary filmmakers ever, but he's a leftist. He did a film about Bannon called American Dharma. And it's interesting. Bannon knew this guy was going to attack him because, he's done stuff for, I think, John Kerry. And Bannon knew it. But does Bannon care if he's attacked? No. Right? Bannon wants to be attacked by leftists.
Just more publicity.
Everyone on our side goes, oh, this fucking leftist, blah, blah, blah. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Bannon's a master of image. Bannon's a filmmaker. He talks in that film about a lot of movies. And he really is a film guy. And so he's played this very, very well. But the other thing was the story of Bannon and the Nazis. And Jeff Pasovic, these guys, both naval intelligence, and Jack's part of the war room posse. By the way, let's talk about that. Do you know what's pissed about that name, War Room Posse?
I don't know.
Roger Stone.
Why?
You remember his old show on InfoWars?
I mean, I guess, I do, but was it called War Room?
It was called War Room, yeah. And
so they just
Roger
sold
told me he's really pissed about it sometimes. Right, exactly. And so the Nazis, I outline all of that. Because again, I understand people with MAGA are going to be skeptical going in, you see? So I really need to make sure everything is factually nailed in this book. If anyone looks stuff up, they'll go, God, he's right, But
yeah.
So let me point out why I think Bannon's a destructive force. He's been attacking Elon Musk. He's been going after Elon Musk in a way, calling him a globalist and stuff.
Yeah.
No. I think he's jealous because he's not in the White House and Elon is. And I think that's a big upgrade. So that was the whole point. Without Bannon in the White House, it's going much better.
Right.
That's one factor. But anyway, I've been doing so much research on this. It's in my head, So, yeah. But I think the book is very good.
Right. Well, yeah, no, people are going to want to check that out for sure. People can go on to patreon.com/Stranahan and stay updated. Also, that's a great way to sponsor Lee. In about a minute, we're going to go to the sponsor exclusive segment.
One thing I'll just pimp before we go. If you're a Patreon subscriber for as little as $5 a month, you'll be getting the book free in PDF form. And I'm uploading chapters there now. So it's going to be on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and on Kindle. But you can get a free PDF version if you're a subscriber. So you might want that because you saw the cover. I did the cover, Jason. Pretty good, huh?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this will be a good book because, people know that you worked with Bannon and, during the transition period when Andrew Breitbart died and the whole thing sort of became, a new incarnation of what it once was. So it's going to be interesting insights. And look, that's my question too. Bannon is Navy intelligence and they're linked to all this unusual stuff. This guy, Boris Epstein, we got a lot to get into. So people should stay with us, Lee. We're going to continue our conversation right now in the sponsor exclusive segment. People are going to be able to join us on patreon.com/Stranahan, of course. And we're going to have the simulcast on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. How do you like my Russian themed office tonight, Lee?
I'm blind, Jason. I'm sorry.
Sorry to ask.